welcome to my channel. In today's video, I am super excited to share with all of you the Peau holiday collection. So I've been eyeing this collection for a really long time. For years, I've been attracted to Pau's holiday releases, but they're so expensive, and Peau isn't really a brand I have a ton of experience with. I have their complexion products, but none of their color products. And so year after year, I just kind of let the holiday releases pass me by. But this year, I was just so intrigued by this beautiful packaging that they had, and the colorway also really appealed to me, and so I figured, okay, I'll finally bite the bullet and try them out. So I have all three pieces of the makeup collection: the lipstick, the highlighter, and the eyeshadow palette. So if you're interested in learning more about this release, then just stick around. So to start off, just a quick comment about the packaging. So I ordered from the Peau website, and I must admit I was a little bit disappointed in that it basically just came in a normal cardboard box. Inside was just these products as you see them here, just, packaged like this in that shrink wrap. There wasn't any sort of special box or any of that, paper confetti or anything like that. So I was a little bit disappointed, especially when I compare this to the Byredo packaging. So I did also pick up their Bibliophilia palette, which, as you can see here, is really intense. Like, this came in a much bigger box that had like paper confetti in it. And so, it was a very different packaging experience. So not a big deal, but just thought I'd mention that because usually when you buy from the brand's website, you expect kind of more elevated packaging. And in this case, I would say if you're just buying from, Nordstrom or somewhere else, like, you're going to have the exact same experience as buying from the Peau website. So here are the products outside of their shrink wrap packaging. This is the Luminizing Face Enhancer. It's shade 110 and is made in Japan. And here we have the eyeshadow palette, really fun packaging as well. Shade 504, also made in Japan. And finally, the lipstick, shade 527, made in Japan. So I'm going to zoom you in to take a closer look at these outside of the packaging. So here we have that gorgeous lipstick, so pretty. It has Peau on the side as well. It's a very whimsical design. You have a little ladybug here, the Peau logo, these wildflowers, and then this magical train. And I love how the ladybug has this stained glass effect. And here is the eyeshadow palette. It comes in this really cute pouch. I normally throw these pouches away, but this one I will be keeping because it has that cute train on it. And then the other side is the Peau logo. And here we have the beautiful palette. This one is such an interesting design. You have an antelope and a cheetah having a tea party, and then you again have that dreamlike train. So beautiful, surrounded by these puffy hydrangeas. And then the back is just a mirrored finish with that sticker. There is a button enclosure, and when you press that, you can see the really gorgeous palette inside. Turning down the brightness a little bit, here is that beautiful palette. Wow, so pretty. I'm so sad that this gold is just gonna fade with the very first use of this, but let's appreciate it right now. Look at that beauty. And then the highlighter also comes with a little train dust bag, but this one is not actually containing the product. Product comes adjacent to that. And here is the peacock with the train. I was really on the fence whether to pick up this highlighter because I don't actually wear highlighter that often nowadays, but it was 100% the packaging that sold me. I liked this one with the peacock the most out of the three products packaging, and it also just has this really cool, like, geometric kind of gemstone effect as well. And this circle as well is a little bit raised. And so I was just very intrigued by this packaging and super excited to pick this up. And this one has a magnetized enclosure, and here you have the beautiful luminizer. It actually has a decent sized brush with it as well. And I don't think the camera is picking this up, but there is a lot of like sparkliness in the finish. I think that's also just an overspray. So one thing that you'll notice in person is a really beautiful, just kind of glittering effect on the surface. And this does have a fragrance to it, kind of like a rose scent. So I'm kind of dreading doing swatches of these products, but of course that is necessary. So oh, it's so pretty. I really don't want to disturb it, but let's go in and get some swatches. So for this first one, I'm gonna just kind of see if I can concentrate my finger on this side because I want to get a decent swatch but not disturb it too much. So here is that purple shade. It's quite subtle. In general, every single video I've seen of Clé de Peau eyeshadows does suggest that the finishes are quite subtle, and that's definitely the case for this palette, which on the one hand is, you know, maybe not great if you're someone who loves like Pat McGrath and really highly pigmented, intense eyeshadows. On the other hand, if you're kind of intimidated by this like pink and purple color story, I think this palette is actually a lot more neutral than you would expect just because all of the finishes are so soft. Like from other videos I've seen, so this pink shade is actually a primer shade, and so it's really not meant to have much pigment at all, which you can kind of see in this swatch. It really is very sheer. It leaves sort of like a pink iridescence to it, but it really does not have like any pigmentation of its own. I'm very curious about this primer shade. I don't have any primer on my eyes right now, so I'm very intrigued whether this will alleviate the need for any eyeshadow primer. And then we have this shade over here. Luckily, I can swatch this without disturbing the embossing. This is kind of a very neutral taupey shade, really pretty. If you want just like an easy one and done, I think this would fit the bill. These shadows are definitely very smooth and very creamy, which is something I've heard about these as well, that they kind of have this smoothing effect on the lids and are great for folks with drier eyelids. Now for this train one, I'm really just trying to get around the train as much as possible. And luckily that does have pretty high pigmentation, so I didn't need to really dig in for a decent swatch. So here we have the swatches of the eyeshadow palette. Like I said, I think this is actually a very approachable palette, even though you might initially think pink and purple, that's, you know, kind of intense. But, you know, you have these two very basic shades that can be used for like really any everyday look. Then you have this primer shade, which, you know, just adds a little bit of soft reflectivity. And then this purple shade is also quite subtle. So I'm very intrigued. I'm normally someone who's not that into subtle eyeshadow, but in the past year, I've gotten much more into that sort of, you know, very like clean girl kind of aesthetic. So I'm intrigued to see if Clé de Peau becomes, you know, a brand that's more to my current taste. Next, let's dive into this luminizer. So I'm going to just kind of go along the bottom. That way I can hopefully get through the overspray a bit. And you can see here is how the product looks. I was excited about this year's shade because I felt like it was a little bit more natural than in other recent years. It's like less frosty, which for my skin tone is kind of key. I'm not like that big of a highlighter fan, so I don't really like super bright highlights. This is definitely a little bit cool toned on my skin tone. You can see it's, you know, quite white compared to my skin tone. So I'm curious to see how this will look on the cheeks, whether it'll kind of blend in and just give a more natural sheen, or whether it's gonna be really intense. And then finally, let's go into this gorgeous lipstick. Ooh, look, and there's also that little train design, including the flower and the ladybug. Very cute. So let's turn that up. And here we have the untouched bullet, so beautiful. It's such a unique shape. If you look at that top, it makes me really sad to use this the first time because that's so pretty. Look at that. And this is in the shade Ruby Spark. It definitely looks quite red, so quite vibrant. But yeah, really, really gorgeous bullet. I'm just gonna do a quick swatch of this. And interesting, yeah, definitely looks a bit different in the bullet compared to the swatch. I would say the bullet just looks very like kind of bright red, almost like warm. But then in the swatch, you can see much more of that raspberry. It has that kind of hot pink element to it. It is interesting to me that they paired this with this eyeshadow palette. I feel like I would have picked probably a different shade to go with this look, but really pretty, and I have been enjoying bright pinks, so hopefully this fits the bill. So before we get into demoing these products, I do need to put the rest of the makeup on my face, and I saved this part because I wanted to also show you guys my other two Clé de Peau products. So I have their concealer and their cushion foundation. If you're not interested in this, please feel free to just skip ahead, but I think it's been quite a while since I featured these on my channel, so I thought I'd give you guys some updated thoughts about these products as well. So I'm gonna start out actually with the concealer, because this is sort of more of a dry matte formula, and I feel like it might look better having the more radiant cushion on top of it. This is like a very classic concealer. It's been around forever. I've, had mine for quite a while as well. It's honestly sort of dried out because I've had it for so long. It's been sort of buried in my makeup drawer. But this is one of the best concealers for blemishes because it has like a very thick, kind of drier consistency. It does stay and adhere on top of blemishes quite well. And the shade 2 Ochre is a really good match for my skin tone, in case you need a shade reference. I don't love this under the eyes. I do feel like I normally prefer a bit more of a radiant concealer, something a little bit more creamy and lightweight under the eyes, but it does do a great job elsewhere on the face in terms of covering up imperfections. Put some on my nose as well, just everywhere I need a bit more coverage. And why not? Let's put a little bit on the cheeks too, just to really mute things out. And I personally like applying this with a finger just because I feel like the warmth really helps the product blend in a little bit better. You can definitely do it with a brush or sponge, but because it has that thickness to it, I think the warmth just really helps. Okay, with that done, let's get into the cushion foundation. I have this in shade 10. So it's good to start with like kind of thinner layers and gradually build up with this. Something I learned the hard way because you can easily pick up quite a bit of this product. I'm gonna just put this all over my face. And this is a product that initially I was kind of skeptical about when I first got it. I wasn't sure how much I liked it. I do find that this product is a little bit finicky depending on what kind of powder you use. It honestly looks the best on no powder days for me, but it has shot up over time in terms of my cushion foundation rankings. It's now like probably one of my top ones. I wouldn't say number one just because I still am very loyal to my Junxi Mole, and that one's also just so much more affordable than this. But this does leave a really beautiful kind of radiant finish. It's very perfecting on the skin, even if you don't use a ton of it. I think of all my cushions, this one probably leaves like the nicest finish on its own, but the only thing I don't like about it is it does just sometimes interact with other products not super well. Like even today, I feel like it's not doing the best on top of my sunscreen. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But if you find the combinations that work really well, then this is a really beautiful foundation. This also does have a fragrance to it. It's not super strong, but it's a little bit of a floral, fresh scent. And I do also like that it has this little divot at the top of the puff, really perfect for getting around the eyes. So with that complexion done, I'm gonna go off camera, do the rest of my face, and then be back to demo this holiday collection. So let me actually start out with the lipstick because my lips are feeling kind of dry at the moment. So that's just one swipe on both sides. Very nice pigmentation. So there we go. Here is the Raspberry Spark shade on my lips. Really pretty. I think because it has all of that pink in it, it actually makes it a bit more wearable than your typical red. And like I said, I've been really into hot pink lipsticks of late, so I feel like this will fit in really nicely in my existing collection. And on initial application, this feels really comfortable. I wouldn't say it's like a super hydrating formula, like my lips don't feel like, oh wow, so nourished. But for a satin lipstick, I think this is a bit more standard. It feels nice and thin on the lips, so I don't feel like I have a lot of product on, but it does still feel hydrating overall. Alright, so now let's get into this eyeshadow palette. So I'm gonna first go in with this primer shade and just put this all over my lids because this is meant to just prime everything. And as you can see, there's really not any pigment payoff. It does leave some glitters on the lid, so it has like some of that pinky golden glitter. I don't know if the camera really picks it up, but yeah, no pigment base at all. So on the one hand, if you're someone who's like not that into pink eyeshadows, you don't need to worry about that for this palette. You're not really going to get any pigmentation. On the other hand, if you don't really care for a primer shade and you wanted to have something that would actually give you some payoff, then this is not the shade for you. Next, I'm going to go into this shade as sort of a transition shade. So I'm going to just put this on the outskirts of my lid, and this applies very, very smoothly. Relatively light in shade if you use a fluffy brush like this. Like, I feel like it just offers like a hint of a taupey shadow to the look. I do think this would be a great, very easy one and done shade if you want something very natural for your look. And then I'm gonna go and build up this purple shade and put this all over the lid, because this is the shade I was most intrigued about. Definitely the shade that offers the greatest interest for this palette. It's too bad this is the one that has that train embossment, because it's so pretty. I feel like by the end of this look, there's not going to be much of a train left. Okay, so definitely you can build this up and get some purple payoff. It's not like, you know, in your face purple by any means. I feel like if you're someone who really wants a look that screams purple, this is not going to give it to you. But if you're someone who's a little bit shy about color, but you want to have something a little bit fun, then I think this is a really good option. Overall, I guess the demographic they're catering to for Clé de Peau is more of like demographic that's a bit more conservative with their makeup application. Let me actually turn on the brightness a little bit so you can hopefully see that purple a bit better. But I think also you can see a little bit like why I felt like it was weird that they put these colors together in this collection. I really feel like this eyeshadow does not go with this lipstick at all. Like I don't know, something about the tones is really just not jiving for me. But I think they're very beautiful by themselves. Maybe more of a slightly nude lip or a more cooler toned lip, or just something less saturated would have worked better on the lips pairing with this eyeshadow. So now I'm going to go into that deepest shade to add some dimension to this look. So I'm going to first just sweep this on the outer portion and then just kind of use it to deepen up the crease. Now this, of all the shades, definitely packs the most pigment punch. So it does show that like it's intentional that the other shades have the level of pigmentation they do. Like Clé de Peau can formulate something that's very pigmented. But yeah, something just to be a little bit careful of. I think if you wanted to use this as a liner shade, then you definitely can. So it's great that it has that versatility. But if you wanted to go for something softer, then just be a little bit careful. Like I'm actually going to go back into that taupey shade just to sort of zhuzh out the edges, because that was a little bit more pigmented than I was anticipating. Because with the other shades, I had to sort of really dig in to get the pigment payoff. But there we go, very, very easy to apply. Everything blends super seamlessly. So also I think if you're someone who is kind of newer to makeup, then this palette and these formulations are quite nice because they're just really, really easy to use. So now for the lower lash line, I'm gonna start again with that primer shade. I don't actually know if it does anything. Like it certainly doesn't look like much, but if it's gonna help with my eyeshadow longevity, I'm gonna give it a shot. It really just leaves behind a bit of shimmer, which is a little bit weird having it like at the bottom, you know, like once you put on the other shades, it's not really clear that you can see that pink shimmer anymore. Then I'm gonna go into this taupe shade and just run that along the outer portion. And then also take some of that purple shade and run it along the inner 2/3 so we can still see that color. And then taking a tiny bit of that deepest shade, I'm just going to deepen up the outer corners. There we go. Really, really easy to use palette. And then finally, I'm just going to go in just a little bit more purple at the top. Try to zhuzh things up. Let me also actually take a little bit more of this primer shade and just try to dab a little bit of that on top as well. It doesn't work great as a topper. I mean, it can do a little bit, but yeah, I do feel like I have to kind of dig in. I'm gonna use the primer shade in the inner corner. I actually feel like concentrate on the inner corner, you can see that a little bit better. But I think you can already tell, like, I did dig in quite a bit with that primer shade to get the payoff. Like the Clé de Peau logo is already quite faded. So finally, I'm gonna go in with this luminizer, and I'm so curious about this formula. I've been eyeing these for such a long time because they're so pretty, but also a little bit intimidating. Like you can see that actually picked up quite a lot. So I'm going to just tap off this brush and then sweep it on the high points of my cheeks. Okay. That's nice. More subtle than I was anticipating, which is perfect because, like I said, I haven't been that into highlight lately. So let's put that on this side as well. Ooh. Okay, there's a tiny bit of like the glitteriness, but I think that's just from the overspray. I'm trying to avoid the overspray and just focus on the portion where I already broke through the overspray. There's still a little bit left. But overall, I do like this. I feel like it's much more like the name suggests, a luminizer rather than a highlighter, because it doesn't have like a huge punch when it comes to the shine. Like when you pick it up, you kind of feel like, oh wow, that's like a lot of product. But then when you put it on the face, it does just kind of blend in pretty seamlessly. Oh. Okay, I'm actually liking this because I'm not at all a bright highlighter person nowadays, and I feel kind of bad because I have a lot of very beautiful highlighters in my collection that are just not getting use. But something like this that's almost like a glorified finishing powder, I feel like I could get some good use from this. So I'm gonna go off camera, put on some eyeliner, and then be back with my initial impressions about these products. And here we have the final look. What do you guys think? So zooming you guys out, I'm overall really pleased with my initial impression about these products. I would say that I don't really know that I love the overall look of everything together. I feel like there's still a little bit something off about the colors kind of mixing together. But if I look at these products separately, I think they're really gorgeous. So with the eyeshadow, I think it's definitely a softer look than what I typically go for. But like I said, recently I've been actually less into eyeshadow and more into natural makeup looks. And so today's look for this video is kind of the most glam amped up version of this eyeshadow palette. But I think probably for the most part in the future when I use this, I might just use it for more subtle looks. Like, you know, if I just want to do a very neutral look, I would just stick with these two shades. Maybe if I want a one and done, I would just go in with this shade. Today I really built up the purple and it's really gorgeous, but I think overall where this palette would shine is for like much more subtle makeup days. And so let me know if you guys would be interested in updated impressions about this palette. I feel like it's a really beautiful, well-made palette for the kind of category of makeup it's in. It's definitely though kind of a new category for me. I'm not used to like working with shadows that are meant to be so subtle on the lids. In terms of the lipstick, as you guys know, I've been on a luxury lipstick kick lately, and so given how beautiful this is, I'm so excited to have this in my collection now. I really like the shade as well. It's kind of in a similar vein to like Bad Pink from Dries Van Noten or the Les Roses Essentielles, which I have in Guerlain, which is my current favorite. And so I feel like I have a bunch now of luxury lipsticks in this sort of like hot pink adjacent family. So this does have a lot of competition from a formulation perspective. Upon initial impression, It feels really nice. I can't say if it's any better than those other two top formulas, but I am excited to wear this more and see how this fits within my overall lipstick ranking. Now, the Luminizer, I would say, is probably the most surprising product to me of this haul. I've never tried Clé de Peau's Luminizer formula before, and I'm very pleasantly surprised. I was really on the fence as to whether to pick up this product because, you know, all of these are very pricey, and originally I was most attracted to the other two products, so I was just gonna, you know, leave this. But I'm really glad that I picked it up because it's actually just so beautifully subtle on the skin, which, you know, of course, if you want like good bang for your buck, maybe that's not the best. But if you're like me and you've been a bit highlighter shy lately, then I feel like this is actually perfect because it gives you just that really subtle sheen, almost as if you have more like a liquid highlighter or just like a glowy primer or something. It blends really smoothly into the skin, and I feel like this shade also works well for my skin tone. I don't see any cast as a result of it. So I'm quite excited about this product, and maybe it'll kind of let me dip my toe back into wearing highlighter more often. So overall, I'm quite pleased with this haul. My one caveat would be that, you know, I really bought these because of the packaging, because they're so beautiful. And for now, I would say the jury's still out in terms of whether the formula alone would be able to justify the price of these products. From today's first impression, I think the formula is really beautiful. But I would definitely say that for myself, at least, if it wasn't for the packaging, I wouldn't be as excited about these products, and I probably wouldn't necessarily think they're worth the cost, like if they were in really simple packaging. That said, if you are someone who really is enamored of this packaging, I do think that the formulas are good, so it's not like it's only about the outside. And so if you like Clé de Peau formulas already, or if you're intrigued to give them a shot, I do think this is a really lovely collection to do so. So that's it for today's video. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I would love to hear in the comments what you guys think about this collection. Have you picked any of it up? Have you picked up any of Clé de Peau's previous launches as well? I consider myself still a Clé de Peau noob, so I would love to hear from those of you as well who have a lot of experience, how you feel about this collection versus past collections. But thank you guys so much for joining me today, and if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!